point number 3. Most of compliance validation are already automated, such as PSM and recommended schemes. This PSM word has, it has come many times in this presentation.
Is it?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. I'll tell you more in case you want.
Give me a minute. Let me just check.
पहले तो मुझे लगा PMS को PSM गलती से टाइप हो गया होगा, but it was actually PSM.
Oh, I thought it's all along. I'm thinking it's PMS only, portfolio management only.
और मुझे लग रहा था कि शायद सिर्फ मुझे ही नहीं पता, because nobody asked.
नहीं, मैंने सोचा कि यही होगा, पोर्टफोलियो स्कीम मैनेजमेंट हो गया. सोचा.
Let me have a look and check.
मैम, आपके 2 क्वेश्चन में से एक क्वेश्चन वो एनआर डिपॉजिट वाला था क्या? शाश्वती मैम.
It's NRI Pro.
प्रो वो है ना, क्या है इनका डिपॉजिट है?
हाँ, वो तो मालूम है, इट्स डिपॉजिट है, where you can have this forward contract वाला कर सकते हो.
हाँ 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 हाँ.
But they want to know how to go about it. Suppose today I want to book it. How do I do it? वो तो मैंने वेबसाइट से वही मैंने लिखा ना कि I've got that basic information I've got from the website जो लिखा हुआ है. So before I actually put it, I always first website थोड़ा check कर लेती हूँ क्या information है. Then, but they want to understand that if I want to book that, how do I go about it? क्या मिलेगा? Can I do it? ऐसे ऐसे पूछ और थोड़ा details मांग रहे वो लोग.
वो तो मैम वैसे भी ये तो फंक्शनल ट्रेनिंग है, ये तो वो लोग सिस्टम पे खुद ही देख सकते हैं. तो आई थिंक पार्टिसिपेंट्स को हमसे एक्सपेक्ट भी नहीं करना चाहिए कि हम उस प्रोसेस को यहाँ पे बताएंगे. हम तो सिर्फ
because कुछ की processes हम लोग बता रहे हैं ना, so they want to have just an idea actually. So I have naturally told them, I've handled them that कि आप एक बार देखो, speak to your supervisor, speak to your management is there on what products processes are available on branch analytics. वो तो बोल चुकी हूँ. But from our side also, we should have a little idea if they're questioning. No? When it's there on the slide, that's what my concern is.
Anything related to process, na, just say, see, I'm not aware about it, but you can always put your query to the green channel NRI at the rate of, sub green channel pe dal do. Everybody has green channel is for all the relationship management. They have a green channel, a quick response team.
What is it called? What's the idea? Green channel?
Yeah, so green channel NRI, green channel Burgundy, green channel priority at the rate of Axis Bank.
Okay, ठीक है. At the rate of Axis Bank. So Burgundy, it'll be priority green channel at the rate of Axis Bank.
Correct. So just put it on to them, because see what happened, we don't have access to processes, because if we have access to processes and the compliance risk ये होता है कि that people can find faults in the processes and then train somebody and create frauds into the bank. So that's the reason, as far as possible, they don't allow the processes to be discussed by third party. That's the logic that they have given us.
Yeah, makes sense. And I've told them also to refer to branch analytics, where all the products and details would also be there, no?
Correct.
On branch analytics, right?
Yes.
Priority Lighthouse.
Okay.
Okay, Priority Lighthouse. Okay. Oh, I told them branch analytics. Okay. So Priority Lighthouse, about all products and all, it would be available, right?
Yeah, product notes, process notes on the products pertaining to priority will be available. But if it is something other than priority, for example, information ke liye chahiye, they will get it in e-circulars, because that has everything about Axis Bank.
Achha,
E-circulars mein.
Okay, thanks.
All right. So let me check about this also as one of the things that I would need to figure out kya hai. Currently not able to find out, at least from the slides. Okay, so let us at least start with today's topic, which is the net promoter score. So what here we are focusing on is understanding what is the customer uh, feeling, customer response when it comes to transacting with Axis Bank and availing of the products and services of Axis Bank. We would want the customers to have a sense of loyalty to the bank. Today we have so many the affluent customers are interacting with so many banks. We would want them to make sure that the retention, the loyalty, the preference when it comes to their banking products, investments, primarily stands with Axis Bank. So we would want to have a feedback which is taken in the form of net promoter score from the customers. It is basically a tool to figure out how or what is the customer's preference when it comes to banking, and that is what we are trying to figure out here, to understand whether the customer will be referring the products and services of Axis Bank to his friends, colleagues, if given a chance to respond to a survey, or if given a chance to form an opinion about the bank and its offerings. How comfortable is the customer in his rating of the bank? And that is what the NPS is focused on. NPS over the time has become extremely important and critical for the bank, and it has been spearheaded by the leaders at the top, right from the CEO levels, because we want to make sure that the vision for Axis Bank is now from number 3, which we've been for a long, long time, to become number 1 private sector bank in the country. And for that, we would want to listen to the voice of the customer. What is the customer liking? What is the customer not liking? What is the customer feedback? And that's why there is a constructive and a structured process in place to keep gauging that feedback and accumulating that feedback from the customer. So understand what the customer likes, identify areas of improvement, improve the positive changes in the employees and improvements in business processes. So this is what we are talking about. It's very difficult to onboard a customer at the same time due to poor services or whatever. We don't know why the customer has left the bank. If we can identify what are the reasons why he opts out, or what are the reasons what he doesn't like about a particular process, service, RM, we would want to hear that out. And that's why the feedback and the voice of the customer given so much importance. So today the Net Promoters tool is a tool to measure the customer feedback. And this again is a tool that has been widely used across the industry globally. So it is statistics which tells you as an organization how loyal your customers are. How is it that, what is the probability of you getting referred, or your response getting a positive feedback from the customer. So the benchmarks that have been set are again those which are globally accepted, and that is how we would want to go about doing it. Every RM very conscious that any kind of negative feedback will have an impact on his NPS scores, and alternatively, obviously, all the feedback coming from the customers affecting the branch scores. So there is detailed MIS being published in terms of what is the net promoter score of the branch, and supervisors also expected to step in and figure out if there is a bad review for a particular RM. We would want to find out what exactly or what was the reasonings behind the customer giving a not so satisfactory or not so happy review. Now, when we talk about reviews, again, it could be different types. It could be maybe the person concerned. It could be a person specific, dissatisfaction that the customer has, or for that maybe it's a process related or a product related response due to which the customer has rated poorly the bank. So we would want to know that. So while the RM is the first point of contact, you will also find that the supervisors are also actively reaching out to customers, wanting to find out how the customer feedback is. So this is what we are talking about in NPS. Now, the first question and the ultimate question that NPS asks is, based on your recent experience, how likely are you going to recommend Axis Bank to your friends and colleagues? And today we are looking at a score that is 9 and 10. That is the response, and that is the scale that is the highest positive response that every RM should aim for, because anything less than in the first 6, 1 to 6 is something which is not satisfactory, and 7 and 8 are your passive customers who are not unhappy, but at the same time the probability of them referring would be very low. The scores which are 9 and 10 are the customers who are your loyal customers. They are happy with the services of the bank and they would want to actively refer also. So we would want all customers to come in that score. 7 and 8, while they will not hurt you in terms, but at the same time, because they are on the fence, they can shift either ways. They can either be promoters if they are happy, or for that matter, they might go lower also. So you would want to make sure that whatever is your portfolio of customers is more of customers who give you a score of 9 and 10. So in NPS, there is, these are the set of questions that gets triggered. And this trigger happens basis an interaction that an RM logs into the CRM. So today, if I've met with a customer and I'm putting an entry in CRM for the interaction that I've had with the customer, immediately a simultaneous trigger gets raised to the customer. So the moment I say that Vidya has met with customer X, automatically that customer X is also getting a notification that this is what Vidya says, that she has met you. And basis that interaction is this question being triggered, that how was your interaction? Are you happy? Would you recommend it to your friends and colleagues? Now this score, and today a lot of our RMs are proactively telling the customers upfront that, sir, ma'am, you will be receiving a small survey link and request you to put in the feedback. Right. So that is again something that has been proactively being done by the RMs. They are keeping their customers educated because we want the customers to participate in the survey. But at the same time, it's not as if that if I'm speaking to a customer 4 times in a day and I'm putting in those entries, or maybe I've spoken to the customer thrice in a week, all interactions will trigger a survey. ऐसा नहीं है. So the bank is also mindful and conscious to ensure that repeated connects with the customer do not trigger these survey feedbacks time and again for the customer, because then it becomes, it loses its sanctity, and the customer, then will stop responding. So we are conscious. So generally more than 1 or 2 is what the customer receives a link for in his entire interactions with the RM. So very, very conscious that we do not flood the customer mailbox with these kind of survey links, and we restrict the number of times the customer is bombarded with these kind of survey questionnaires. But once the link has been initiated and the customer has put in that response, that MIS is available for one and all, and we would want to see what exactly is the level of feedback or the comfort that the customer has with respect to the bank and the RM. Once the customer puts in that first score, so it happens in 3-4 simple screens. First screen talks about what is the primary questionnaire in terms of the customer loyalty. How does he rate Axis Bank in terms of products and services, and will he recommend or not? Now, depending upon the choice that the customer makes in terms of the rating scale of 1 to 10, the second question gets initiated for the customer as to what is the reason for whatever the scoring the customer has done. And there again, the customer has a choice, whether he picks up one answer, whether he picks up 1 or 2, whichever is from the drop down. So he makes a choice for the bank to understand why the customer felt that this was the score for the feedback that the customer has given. Again, the third question, post the second question, the third question gets reflected for the customer is, what did you most like about the time taken to resolve the customer request, or whatever. Depending upon the inputs that he is doing on the second screen, the third screen gets popped up for the customer. And the fourth screen is a screen wherein the customer can put in those comments. So there are a set number of feedbacks that we have fit in, and basis the response that the customer gives in the previous screens, those set of questions get triggered and the customer can pick and choose from the options. But let's say the customer has a feedback which is not reflecting on anything, some qualitative comment, something that he would want the bank to know. Then we also have a free text screen where the customer can put in that information as well. So basically in 2-3 simple steps in less than 2-3 minutes, the customer can actually rate the interaction that he has had with or his experience with the RM. And that clarity helps us. So today when we talk about the questions, one is the core question in terms of loyalty. Second is because of the ratings, what is the key parameters that the customer feels went well or went bad or he was not so happy, so on and so forth. And within those parameters, we would want to investigate it slightly further to figure out what was exactly the root cause of concern. And if that has not been there in the drop down test that has been shared with the customer, then the customer himself, we have also given him an option of putting a free text, which he can then put in his, the feedback, so to say. So today, when we talk about an NPS, three very clear categorization, and this is what the entire organization follows. We want promoters, and that is the net NPS scores that every branch is aiming to increase. Every RM is aiming to increase. So promoters are your loyal enthusiasts. They refer the band. Passives, like I said, since they're sitting on the fence, it can work either ways. And depending upon the RM interaction, the RM itself will be able to figure out which ranking, your customer is likely to give. At any point in time, if he finds that there is an interaction that did not go well, or if there's a complaint or a concern case, we would want the RMs to work on passives and detractors, right? Because these are the people because of whom the scores of the RM are also falling and of the branch as well. So today we want in-depth, talks being done with these set of customers, because we would want to move them to promoters. So why is it that they are unhappy? What is it that is, stopping them from giving a positive rating is what we are wanting to figure out. And that's why the intervention of the supervisor as well. So today, as a supervisor, when I see the NPS scores, I'm also getting a list of my branch customers who have been giving poor scores. So while many a times it could also happen that, as an RM, they would not want to say something directly on the face of it to the RM. But when a supervisor or maybe a third party calls up to figure out what is the reason for the poor score, the customer maybe shares more openly with and is more transparent. So that is the reason the involvement of the supervisor is also extremely critical. And in case if you find some kind of a feedback which talks about maybe some areas which the RM needs to improve, maybe it is product, process, so on and so forth, then the supervisor can also counsel and help the RM to perform better and have better scores from his customers as well. So this is how the calculation works. At any point in time, the net promoter score is basically promoters minus detractors. And we would want to make sure that the percentages are high because it's a response by the customer. And the customer is the key in terms of the feedback scores. The scores can be positive, it can be negative as well. Right. So today for a branch, when we talk about what is the net promoter score, or for an RM, what is the net promoter score, we would want to know how many of your customers are positively rating, because your NPS will be positive only if your promoters are high. If the number of customers who are loyal to your bank stays high. If the number is less and dissatisfied and unhappy customers are high, then by default, your NPS can also be negative. So depending upon the feedback, the NPS will vary from RM to RM and from branch to branch. Today, the scores, like I said, again, can be from -100 to a high of +100. Like I said, for the scores to be positive, your promoters will have to be high and your detractors less. Alternatively, your scores will be negative if your detractors are high. We would also want to consciously work on the feedback, because there is an NPS team who's tracking this MIS. And when you collate the MIS for the organization, for the entire bank as a whole, we get to see some very clear reflection of statistics in terms of inputs. What is it that the customers are not liking? Where is it that, a lot of customers are facing a pain area? It could be maybe a process which is not working well. And basis that statistics that required inputs and efforts are going to upgrade or migrate or change the entire process so that our scores can better. Because there are a lot of such journeys which are bringing lots of facts out there, so it's not just a set of customer or one or two customers or maybe region, but as a bank, when you see these statistics in whole, a lot of things comes to light, which becomes very easy for the bank also to take corrective action. So that is what we are talking about here. It's not just an MIS tool, but there's also work being constructively being done to ensure that the entire landscape for Axis Bank changes, and we have a higher number of promoters, and we would want to hold on to the response and the voice of the customers, because unless we work on that feedback, it doesn't make sense. So that is what we are talking about here. And here we have an inner loop and you have an outer loop. So the inner loop basically is, like I said, something that directly affects the customer, like to ensure when you're in touch with the customer, you are able to ask the right set of questions. You are able to understand the customer well, which means that, as an RM, you need to have those skill sets. You would want to make sure that your interaction with the customer is smooth. It is expected, it is at par with what the customer expects. You are able to manage customer expectations. You are able to respond to customer queries, which means as a RM, you need to have the skill sets, you need to have the process knowledge, you need to have the intelligence and the finesse to deal with these affluent customers. So that is the inner loop. You also have the outer loop, wherein you would want to make sure that, if there is something which is wrong with the process. For example, sometimes customers say that Axis is taking unusually long, for example, in a disbursement of a business loan, whereas I'm banking with 3 other competition banks where processes are not so difficult. So when you find that these kind of responses, then you also have you would want to relook at processes. Maybe you would want to learn from what the industry is offering and how is it that customers are finding it difficult. It could be something like as simple as an FD rate comparison, or maybe a remittance switch process which the customers are finding it tedious or cumbersome. So depending upon what the feedback is and what is the kind of input and work that is required, the NPS team is working on it. And at the same time, like I said, if it is an individual specific feedback, we would work on it. We would want to also figure out in NPS what are the escalations that happen. Many a times there are any kind of complaints, grievances that happen in the organization are also being checked to see which areas are we receiving maximum complaints from. Where is it that we have the maximum or the highest dissatisfaction? So those are also being looked into. So as a whole, a lot of work being done to ensure that we are able to work, there is some effective ground work being done on the feedbacks that are being collected from across the bank. So here, when we talk about the NPS journey, this is
Vidya,
what the NPS.
Vidya,
Yeah,
in the
Shashwati.
earlier slide, please. In the earlier slide. So when we're looking at this picture, do we tell them that we start with this huddle in the middle and trying to understand how this, why this NPS score is negative or not good? So do we start with this huddle and then move to individual and then to the outer loop? Is there
Yes,
any
we can,
process
because
flow to
any which
that?
ways, as a part of Axis Bank, it is in the part of their DNA that you start your day with a huddle. You start
Right.
your day with what is the understanding of what went right, what went wrong, what are the
Right.
concerns, what are the changes, what is it that we need to focus on. So all those things are being discussed, and that's why, because NPS and your branch scores are also linked, you would want to make sure that at least you as an RM, as a person who's handling a set of customers, you do not bring down the scores of the branch. And like I said, even if you were to do that, you also have people who are looking into that, wanting to find out what is the concern, what is the issue with
Right.
the
Yeah. Okay. And the second question is that is there a tag to this, like for especially the one which is on the inner loop where you're reaching out to customers? Is there any particular tag, or can we just say 24 hours, same day?
no,
Something
it
like that.
happens immediately. It happens in real time. So today, when I have met the customer and I have put in a CRM entry, a simultaneous alert gets raised.
No,
So
I'm
it
not
is
talking of
based.
that. No, I'm not talking of that. What I'm trying to say is that suppose this NPS score, first of all, in what frequency will the branch be receiving it?
I think it's monthly.
Oh, so I mean, today, if someone has given a negative score or has been unhappy, we will come to know only after the end of the month or the beginning of the
No,
month?
the customer feedback is instantaneously shared as a branch, as an MIS. The collation system, I think, is monthly. Just give me a minute. In the later slides, I think that information is there. I think it's monthly or bi-monthly. Just hold on. I'll have to move further in the slides to see what is the frequency.
Also, do they I remember Kotak Bank has something like this, that instantaneously you can actually check what is the score that has been given by your customer on a
Yes, so that
real-time basis.
instant,
Can
yeah,
an RM check?
it comes to the customer. The moment the customer feedback has been captured, the RM will get a notification for the same basis, which we will be able to work on it. But the scores for the branch are published on a monthly basis.
Okay. And this inner loop also, depending upon what the feedback is, either the RM or the supervisor will be giving the call to the customer. Because
No,
if
the
it's a
RM
complaint,
has to call now.
no, if
See,
it's a complaint against the RM, if the customer is not
yeah,
satisfied
you
with the
still
RM.
have to get in touch with the RM, but the RM still has to get in touch with the customer, no? So if
So
you've
the
not been
first,
happy with me and you've given me that as an RM, it is also my responsibility, because you will still remain my customer. I will still remain an RM. So I would still want to reach out to the customer with a response that, I will do better. I'm sorry that you felt that way, but I'm sure I will work on it, and I appreciate the feedback that is there. So that kind of onus the RM will have to take. But alternatively, because the feedback has been poor, even the supervisors would be stepping in. And it doesn't mean that the
Okay,
supervisors
let
are
me
not in.
intervene in here. Let me intervene here. There could be two things. There could be is a RM related. It could two be is process related. Okay, there could be on two reasons why an NPS score may be not promoter, but it could be is passive or this thing. So if it is, for example, RM related, obviously the skip level will have to intervene and get this resolved. Why is the customer saying this about you? Where it concerns a process level kind of a thing, as she said, is that the disbursement process is too long. So, there obviously it will go to the product team to understand as to how we can shorten this whole process and bring it down, reduce the TAT and stuff like that. So at two levels that these NPS scores are getting monitored. I hope Shashwati it answers your question.
yes, Vivek, thank you. Now, Michael, another question which I have related to what you said, Vivek, is that suppose today it is process related and the RM speaks and whatever, whatever feedback the customer gives, how does the RM highlight the matter and to whom do they send it? What is the process? I mean, after the feedback is received from the customer, how do they, an
So
RM
the
speaks to
BIU
them?
team collates all this. BIU team collates all this because there is no way that there is any influence by an RM over the MIS. So
No, I'm not
BIU.
talking about the MIS, Vivek. What I'm saying is, suppose today the negative feedback or the detractor or passive score is because the customer thought that the process of disbursing a loan or whatever was too long. So it's a process related, right? Now, once the RM speaks to the customer and realizes that this is the concern, etc., the RM is supposed to give a feedback, pass on that feedback, right? I mean, it's ideally should pass on that feedback.
No,
Is
RM
it
does not
There's
get
no
this
such
feedback.
required.
RM does not get this feedback. RM does not. That's exactly the point I'm trying to say is the RM does not get this feedback. The RM, this whole triggering of this MIS or triggering of this questionnaire happens from the back end BIU team. The RM has got no role to play until unless there's an escalation about some particular thing.
You just said that this inner loop. Vidya also said, you said that if it's the first contact, like suppose it is person related, it could be a skip level where the supervisor calls up the customer. But here, if it's a negative score has come, Vidya also said that the first person to call up is the RM calls up the customer to understand why he or she has given this negative score. Right. And if they find that feedback that the customer is giving when he is actually speaking to the customer, that the concern is related to some process or something, isn't that feedback needs to be passed on by the RM
It need
onwards,
not, because what we are saying is currently the MIS will be captured centrally. So be it the triggers or the responses are all being collated centrally and worked upon and actioned upon. So let's say in your case, the issue is with a process. There's no reason for the RM to intervene and highlight that this is what the issue is with the customer. The NPS team is any which way is working on every feedback, positive or negative, that is being received by the customer and passing it on to the concerned departments wherever actionable needs to be taken. So from the RM side, let's say if I've received a feedback from the customer that the disbursement is long, we are not expecting the RM to pass on those feedbacks to the concerned department and follow it up or do something on it. What we need to do is at any point in time of a feedback with respect to the RMs comes in, then we would want that scalability to happen, that, you know, the first interaction if the customer is not happy, definitely the second interaction that the customer has with the RM will see that improvement vis-a-vis whatever were the concern areas that the customer highlighted. If it is a process related thing, like Vivek said, you know, it will be passed on to the concerned department and the team so that to see if there is something that can be worked out or what is it that we can do. So what we are at the moment doing is generating that feedback, requesting RMs to keep the customers informed that there is a possibility that they will receive a feedback link, because like I said, it is not that every interaction that I have with the customer triggers a link. It depends when was the last trigger the customer received basis an interaction with the RM. So keep the customers informed that in case if you receive a link, please participate and pass on your feedback.
So to answer Shashwati's question, for example, Shashwati, what you're trying to say is, for example, is that a customer walks in to deposit cash and his experience has been bad. And let's say he is given a score of 6. That's a detractor score. Okay, so obviously the MIS will go to the BIU team. BIU team will flag this off that a priority customer walked into a branch A and he to deposit cash, and the experience was very poor. So it will get flagged off and it will go to the branch manager as to this is what has happened in your respective branch. The branch manager would obviously then ask the branch manager or call the priority banking relationship manager and says, you know, I think a customer walked in and there was some delay in processing because of some whatever reason. And why don't you engage and try to find out what else we could do? So, you know, the PBRM will call up the customer and says, sir, as I understand that you visited the branch yesterday and you didn't have a very good experience. I'm so sorry for the experience cost, but, you know, let me just tell you is how differently you can bank with us. You can use the cash deposit machine to deposit. You don't have to wait for queues. You don't have to come in the morning at 10 o'clock to do it. You can do it in 24 hours, 365 days. Alternatively, you can always give me a call also next time when you are there, where I'll ensure that the process is quicker and faster for you. मतलब you know solution दे रहे हैं और कुछ नहीं, मतलब there's no complaint against the RM or anything like that. It could be just a transaction which has gone wrong. I'll just share an experience with you. Probably if you want, you can take. There's a particular bank. The onboarding process of that bank, they had a negative NPS of -25. And this continued for a long period, which was just reflecting on the acquisition of new accounts. The account opening process and onboarding process was pathetic. So, you know, through the NPS scores that they came to know is that's the reason why we are not able to onboard, or our acquisition targets we are not being able to meet. Then they worked around how can I improve this process and things like that. And they did that. And obviously the NPS scores slowly started going up from going into positive, and today it is in mid 60s. So it's a very good NPS scores. So you can give different examples today. Is the NPS scores of Netflix is something in 80, or in Amazon is 75. So what happens? What does that mean? Being a high NPS score. So if you want to entertain yourself, you go to Netflix again. You watch another new movie, or you renew your subscription of 199 or whatever. So there's a repeat purchase happening over it. So if I'm going to Amazon, my experience is very good when I'm navigating the Amazon this thing. So what happens is whenever I want to buy some product, I go over there. The idea is today, be it in any industry, be it hotel, airline, or auto everybody uses this methodology for checking how is the customer rating my product, my services. Okay, so NPS is today is the in thing, and for each processes also you can actually see is how customer is rating you, be it your onboarding or acquisition, or be it your disbursement and loans. How was the whole experience? They are this thing. So through this slide, what they are trying to say is that I am not taking over the responsibilities of a manager who is above an PBRM. He should be also responsible for what is happening down, and that's where the engagement levels, you have this inner loop and outer loop and escalation levels, so that uh, things reach quicker and faster way and resolve issues immediately to the customer. So that's the basically what they're trying to say in this slide.
Thank
Sorry.
you very much. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Vidya, it's yours.
So these are the three journeys where we are checking customer feedback primarily. First is the onboarding journey. Second is the transactional experience the customer has for doing transactions. And third is the service experience that the customer has. Now, what we are saying is currently of the three journeys, the onboarding experience becomes extremely critical for the customer, the RM, the branch, everybody, because this is where the engagement is the highest. You're meeting up with the customer for a couple of times, you've convinced the customer has now gone in for account opening, and the account is going to get open. Now, during this phase, if and this is the customer's initial interactions with the bank, which will set the tone of his perspective, that how he figures brand access to be, how he figures the quality of processes, products that are being offered by the bank. And if this initial onboarding journey itself is traumatic for the customer, filled with stress, a lot of rework, again and again happening, then right from the onset the customer expectation is very, very poor, in terms of the image of the bank, in terms of the competence of the RM, so on and so forth. So we would want the customer to have a very seamless onboarding journey where the customer feels that yes, he has taken the right step in choosing Axis Bank as a partner. And we would want to make sure for the customer to experience the best onboarding journey. That's why the focus on promoting the digital offerings for account opening. The physical journey generally is long and also filled with a lot of issues in terms of NFTRs are much higher in the physical journey as against the digital journey, which is quicker, smoother, faster, convenient for all parties concerned, and can leave the customer with a feeling that, yes, everything went off extremely well. And the customer starts his interaction and his banking relationship with Axis Bank on a very, very positive note, as against the other situation, other scenario where the customer is dissatisfied and not very happy right at the onset. Once we have a customer in a positive frame of mind, we have also any which ways worked upon all the various transactional experience. So today when you look at the mobile banking platforms, you'll find majority of the transactions have already been enabled on these platforms. And one of the things the RM actively takes care to ensure is right after account opening, the customer has been activated for internet banking, mobile banking, so that as a for all his transactional and his processing needs, those journeys are activated, and the customer can go ahead and do those transactions online. So these are the various journeys. So today the mobile banking transactions, internet banking transactions, ATM experience, debit card usage, all are also creating those triggers for the customer every time he does this transaction. Now, when we talk about the NPS journey, it's not only the RM interaction which is triggering feedback to the customer, but also these kind of transactions when the customer initiates, a feedback mechanism is triggered. So not only for the physical interaction, but even for the customer's digital transactions, a feedback link is triggered, which the customer can then respond into. Even for servicing experience, like I said, primarily we would want to make sure that the experience that the customer has, be it in terms of onboarding, transactions, or service, everywhere we are scoring high. So depending upon the frequency and when was the last system, and these are all system initiated triggers, keeping in mind to ensure that the last trigger was some time away and the customer is not getting those repeated triggers. So for every journey, for example, I walked into a branch to do a transaction, that is a different trigger. There is a different trigger when I'm doing a transaction on the mobile banking or internet banking platform. Vis-a-vis, there's a third trigger which is getting activated when I am interacting with the RM physically and the RM is putting a CRM entry. So different touch points which the customer has with the bank would lead into different triggers, but we are taking care to ensure that the customer is not bombarded with these kind of surveys at every given interaction that the customer has with the bank. We would also want to focus on the NPS index, and this is what we were talking about, where the scores are being captured and recorded, and we are wanting to see which are the branches which are performing low. Within those branches, which are the people whose scores are consistently coming poor, and that is how we would want to work on those improvements as well. So while you have a branch-wise score, similarly you have department-wise scores, and these are those MISs which are giving those results of what are the customers thinking at ground level about Axis Bank and so on. So we would want to make sure that the feedback is captured for the customer. We are also identifying if there are any process related departmental specific issues that need to be addressed and those concerns. Today we are looking at these kind of reports, and these reports are being shared with all in the bank. So it's not just a top level MIS or something, it is shared right down to the people, so that they can have a look at it, they can review and have those discussions how we can manage to improve the scores as well. So there is ownership, like I said, from all the people concerned, and it's a very focused activity that we are doing to improve the scores of the bank as a whole. So these are the parameters and the weightages that are there for the journeys that are there. So the onboarding you would see is the highest, and it starts with that. So, today, if the customer has had a more or less positive experience all throughout his interactions with Axis Bank, you'll find that he will end up giving good scores. Similarly, when you are nudging the customer to please respond to the survey also, because sometimes what happens is the RM doesn't inform survey aata hai, and as a customer I presume that it's one of those spam mails. I do not bother to check, or I am reluctant to give in those feedback. Either ways, it is not working for the bank, because for the bank we will be able to take constructive rectifying action only if the customer gives a feedback, which means that as a RM, I would need to tell the customer that there is a possibility that these surveys would come to you, and please take that time out to respond, take those few minutes to complete this. So without customer involvement, we will not be able to work on the NPS scores. So the onboarding journey, like I said, and those are the questions which get triggers for the interactions that the customer has done or for the transactions that the customer has done. So today, when you have the weightages, you will see that onboarding and the RM interaction both becoming extremely critical in terms of weightages. So that is where the highest transactions happen. The financial transactions have a weightage of 10%, branch servicing has a weightage of 20%. So at any given point in time, if your onboarding and your RM interaction values are poor, you will find that the entire score of the branch NPS would take a hit. The calculation is what has been illustrated here. The weightages into the values is what is captured here to arrive at the total or the final branch NPS index. So today you would want to make sure that your scores are there, and here actively, like I said, the top branches, the bottom branches are being looked into to ensure that the picture changes for the bank as a whole. So that is the calculation for the branch NPS index, where each of those parameters basis the weightages, we arrive at the scores to arrive at the final net score for the branch NPS. And this, like I said, depending upon the feedback, can be positive or negative. We would want to make sure that maximum of our customers rate our branches and RMs well, so that the scores are always positive. We also have a portal called
Vidya,
yeah.
Vidya, in the earlier slide, it says product covered CASA. So does that mean that asset products are not covered?
Where exactly are you seeing this?
If you just in
Yeah,
the
the
earlier
products
slide,
covered CASA. Yes. Because CASA के लिए अलग ये the other products will have another journey that would get triggered, no? As of now, this is for the branch and for the RM journey, primarily for the customer. The customer is interacting, onboarding is for the savings account that he opens, for the current account that he opens. So that is with respect to the KRA, the primary importance that is being given. So this is what the branch NPS is talking about, the onboarding journey, and the onboarding journey primarily for the CASA products that the RM is onboarding.
so for asset products, cards, etc., is there a separate NPS which is triggered in that case?
Yes, every department, every customer touch base with these different channels and teams will have triggers that get set off. What we are referring to here is for the purpose of branch NPS, what would be the aspects that we will be covering.
So this is what the branch manager, whatever NPS he or she is receiving, will
Is
be
basis
based
these
on
four
only
parameters.
CASA. Yeah,
Yes.
only the product covered will be only CASA, including NRI.
Yes.
Right. Okay. Right. Thank you.
The logic behind that is that asset team doesn't sit in all the branches.
Right. Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thanks.
Vidya, for this RM interaction, the data is pulled by the backend team from the CRM entry. Otherwise, how will they get to know that RM has interacted with the client?
So the CRM entry will trigger the NPS.
Okay, okay, done. Thank you.
So today, in Siddhi, every day when I'm meeting the customer, I'm also mentioning that interaction, no? That today I met with this customer and this was the feedback. So the moment I say that I've met the customer, automatically a trigger gets initiated where the customer is checked whether Vidya met you and how was the experience. Now, basis my response, the further slides get prompted for the customer to elaborate on the feedback score that is being given, good, bad, or for that matter, needs improvement or dissatisfied.
Fine, thank you.
So this is what we are talking about here, where you can also look into the portal to figure out what is the scores that have happened. And here the scores on the BBOG. So My Connect is their application. Under My Connects, there is a BBOG portal. Under reports, they will be able to see these kind of reports. Like I said, it is important for the RM to track his NPS scores and ensure that you are doing well. Any which ways, as a part of the huddle discussions, as a part of the branch monitoring, even the seniors in the branch are equally involved to figure out the scores are coming well. They also do get questioned and want to find out what went wrong. So unless the customer is clearly told what is the rating mechanism and how his scores will create an impact, that kind of education is also important from the customer end. So the customer sometimes doesn't realize that many a times it could be that I am not overtly unhappy or something, but just I didn't feel like giving a good rating. So there has to be a qualitative input even from the customer side. So you need to let the customer know that these are how the rating mechanism works for your information, and then the customer is free to give whatever feedback he wants to give at the time when if he receives a link, if he receives a survey link, this is what he needs to do. So that is how it is. Yes. Any further questions?
This BBOG portal, could you explain this a little more? What is this full form of this BBOG?
No idea, Shashwati.
Okay. And My Connect is where will they get this on
My Connect is their application on their mobile. So today when they see it, or one of the applications, one of the downloads that happen. So today all their applications are available on the mobile. So they will be able to see it from this particular application, My Connect. They can go to the MIS field and check the reports. Other than that, they also receive emails. At any point in time, if I want to personally check or see the MIs, this is the path that they have given.
Okay, thank you.
So as an RM, you are also tracking both your score and the branch score, right? Yes, Shilpa, Anju, anything from your side?
Nothing, Vidya?
I am good. Yeah, I'm also
Okay.
good. No problem.
So I'll just share a very interesting NPS thing. So DLF ने अपना एक अभी कोई project शुरू किया था in Gurgaon. So the process of when the customer walks in to select a house or a flat and taking ownership of the flat, the NPS scores were in high 80s, high 90s. The experience was fantastic. Like, बिठाना उनको AC के room में उनको nice buffet is kept for them so that they come on a Sunday, they are very relaxed and whole family comes and things like that, sees the whole flat. They're given a walkthrough to that and all that. But flat was sold, flat was registered, flat was bought, and now the interiors is being done, and the interiors is being done. Okay, now the customer starts living in that thing. As soon as he starts living in, they did a NPS to find out how is it going. It was minus 60, minus 60. And that's when DLF got into it to understand is why am I getting such low scores on this, and all that niggling issues with not unresolved choke pipes, nobody rest attending, the promises were made big, things like that, and they found a whole list of laundry list of issues that they had, and then they started resolving it, and now the NPS scores is in a positive 50, 55. So that's how it works. No, I mean, I'm just giving you an idea if you want to quote somewhere. Don't quote DLF, you can say a construction company.
All right. So the other discussion that we'll be having tomorrow would be on home loans. So we here again are giving them a overview of what the asset, what do we have under the home loan offerings. Like I said, there's a dedicated channel who will be assisting the RMs to close their home loans. So what primarily we are doing is initiating a discussion with the client, taking the asset executive with us on the calls, and they will be the people who will be closing the leads that we generate. So for all the leads that get closed, we receive cross-sell points. So that is the basic overview that we are expecting. We are always recommending the RMs to have the subject matter experts, especially in terms of asset products and all, because they'll be the people who will be closing these transactions for the RM. At the same time, they will be, because they are from the vertical, they are from the channel, they will also have what is the latest updated information with respect to whatever the customer is looking for, and so on. So when we start the home loan discussion, maybe we can start with a small question on top, on discussion of how are loans and how loans are important for the bank, and the difference in the earnings, the interest earnings is what the bank is looking for. Why do banks have to lend? So a little bit of quick discussion on that. And then we move on to the various loans that are available in the market out there, which Axis is also offering. And this again is just a summary of, are the slides moving for you all? I put up the slide. Can you see the home loan slides? I did not check. Is the slide visible?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you have a quick overview of what are the various loan products that are available in Axis Bank. And then with that brief, you would want to start your discussion on home loans. So today, the purpose of home loan is what is highlighted here, and which are the segments that we are catering to in the home loan segment is what is put up here. So different kinds of reasons why a customer would want to go in for a home loan. And even today, practically every person who starts his job, one of the dreams, aspirations that a person has is having his own home. So we would want to help achieve that person's dreams by helping him, create that create that home for himself. So different reasons why a person may go in for a home loan: a builder purchase, a resale purchase, self construction, a balance transfer, purchase of plot and construction, extension, renovation, top up, all these are categories which we allow, and we help the customer in availing of a loan from us, from the bank. Again, in terms of the target segment, we are giving loans to one and all. Like I said, we have a lot of customers, and Axis as such is very strongly positioned in the space of home loans, wherein we give very competitive pricing in terms of our loan rate. So be it an individual working salaried businessman or a professional, so to say, or for that matter, even an NRI, Axis Bank is offering home loans to these customers. We also would want to understand a brief idea of what are the basic parameters that a customer needs to check, an RM needs to check when he's starting a discussion with the probable prospect or customer that we are talking about. So while we have all these categories that we are servicing and taking requests and processing home loans for, because it's an asset product, we would want to make sure that there is going to be a review process, and subject to the documentation, subject to the findings, finally the disbursement happens. So as an RM, you're a facilitator. And in case if you would want to take, take up the issue of one particular customer, because many a times you are the person who are in touch with the customer, and there could be things that, maybe the documents do not show, or, do not reflect properly, or the reasonings behind it. That is the time where you would want to step in, put those recommendations, put those reasonings, put your result of your interactions to your supervisors before the case gets closed or validated, or so on and so forth. So in case if you are seeking specific approvals, deviations, so those are also available. So unless you step in, you will not be able to bring those things to light for recommending a particular customer's case. We also would want the RMs to understand that they should not be, in their commitments and all that. Sometimes what happens is RMs commit, and subsequently those commitments may not happen because, things are also being reviewed at back end at the credit team. There are certain checks that are there and calls that need to be taken. So be mindful that all these things are subject to review, and only after due diligence and review has happened does the case get disbursed. But an RM can be actively involved in making sure that the disbursement happens quickly. You're keeping track of what is the situation, where is the process, or where are the documents at, because the customer will eventually reach out to the RM that docs have been collected, where it is. So you would want the RM to be in touch, but at the same time keep track of it, and so on. So these are the basic background criteria that would help analyze whether my customer fits the requirement of a home loan. So there is the loan amount and tenure. So 3 lakhs to 5 crores, tenure maximum is up to 30 years within which we can do. There are certain criteria like the salaried, for the salaried person, for the self-employed person. We would want a minimum 3-year work ex. If the salary should be greater than 50,000 and above, then we can also consider. So there are some deviations, and like I said, further deviations and exceptions can be looked into on a case-to-case basis. So you would want to review each and every application that comes into your comes across your desk or table, to ensure that what is the category of the customer, what is it that he is looking for, and whether we have we are in a position to help that. The journeys are also available as pre-approved offers for those who are banking with us, for ETB customers who are banking with Axis Bank, who have a salary relationship with Axis Bank. So you have those pre-approved offers as well, which you can initiate those discussions when you're speaking to your customer. So have a look on that aspect as well, and check with the customer if there's a loan running. Basically, what we are wanting to ensure is, if the customer is onboarded to for a loan product like a home loan, the relationship is a long-standing one, because you will find that all these loans are long term loans, 8 years, 10 years, 15 years on the minimum. And that would be the time that the customer will stay vested with the bank, will stay connected with the bank, and will also keep funding the account. Transactions will be high because that is where your EMIs are going in from. So the customer connect is usually higher, and the retention is also longer, because if we can onboard the customer, and because these are affluent customers, you can be rest assured that there are such relationships that are working for the customer with competition banks. All we need to do is, because we are competitive in the home loan space, maybe we can also take a balance transfer or migrate those, loans from competition banks to us. So the salary norms that we are looking at, for salaried, we are looking at minimum 15,000. For self-employed, we're looking at minimum 1.8 lakhs. The LTV calculations best left to the home loan team to handle, because like I said, the valuations change depending upon the property, depending upon the kind of discussion. So for you to have a base average approximate idea, this is what we are talking about. Up to 30 lakhs, it would be 90%, 30 to 75, it's 80%, above 75 lakhs, it's 75%, so on and so forth. And the age norms being 21 years and maximum 65 years, or the retirement age at loan maturity. So those are some basic details, information that we need to have. But any further specific queries, questions need to be handled by the asset team. And that is what we are saying here. So variance of home loans is what we have identified here on the slide. And we have, like we see variance for, like we see in the savings account, current accounts space, a specific segment for each kind of category of customers that we deal with. Similarly, we have a range of home loan variants as well, and some of them have been captured in this slide here. So we have the first aspect, which is called the Shubharamb loans. Here, the maximum tenure is only up to, the maximum loan amount is 30 lakhs. So you'll have to figure out which of your customers require a home loan, wherein the maximum requirement is up to 30 lakhs. If that is the case, then we can offer a Shubharam. And the USP of this variant is you have the 12 EMIs getting waived off. Now, these waivers are basically a savings for the customer, because that many installments the customer doesn't have to pay. But that is subject to your track record. How is it that you've been servicing your home loans? So today, at the end of 4th, 8th, and 12th year, you will have 4 EMI waivers happening. So this happens at subsequent intervals basis. How is it that you've been servicing? So if all your EMI installments have happened on time without any kind of issues, you can expect these waivers. So at the end of let's say a 20 or a 30 year tenure, you can expect 12 EMIs to be waived off for a Shubharam variant. The same concept applies for a fast forward variant. However, here the minimum loan amount starts with 30 lakhs and maximum up to 5 crores. So generally, we find a lot of affluent customers falling into this segment, where fast forward is the loan variant that they request for. And here again, 12 EMIs get waived off for the customer, but here the intervals are 6 EMIs at the end of 10th and 15th year respectively. Now, sizable savings for the customer, and at the same time, in terms of tenure, in terms of values, there are we feel that, we will be able to meet the requirement of the customer as well. The rate of interest, these things would depend upon, the discussions at that point in time, and what is the offering by the bank at that point in time. But yes, you have the retail executive, the asset partner with you, who can fine tune those discussions and take those conversations ahead. We have Shubharam fast forward as the first two variants with 12 EMI waivers. And this again has been an industry first for Axis Bank, where we were one of the first banks to start off with a feature like EMI waiver, which is extremely, attractive for the customers who's going in for a home loan. We have a few more variants like a quick pay, and this is on the reducing monthly installment basis. So unlike an EMI, which is equated monthly installment, where you have a fixed amount being given towards the interest and principal, here what in the quick pay variant, what we are saying is the principal amount is equated throughout the tenure of the loan. So you have the principal that is getting fixed, and the interest amount keeps varying, and it keeps falling. Because what happens is, because you have a huge higher contribution of the principal that is being given by the customer on a month-to-month basis, you will find the customer saves on the interest cost over a period of time. And that is the quick pay variant. Here again, tenure 30 years, loan amounts up to 5 crores. And that is what they have given an example, where a customer who is going for a 50 lakh home loan under a quick pay variant, because we have a fixed percentage of principal that is being deducted on a monthly basis, you will find the interest portion keeps reducing. The monthly installments bring in a savings of 11 lakhs in a tenure of 20 years. So that again, a very, very good USP for the customer, where the customer can take the advantage of higher savings in a product like QuickPay. We also have dedicated variants for people from the central government defense team, where you have step down EMIs up to 65 years of age. And here what we are offering is, this is specifically catering to this segment of people. Axis Bank has been holding salary relationships, a lot of state government and public sector enterprises, and that is what we are offering here for central government and defense employees specifically, where even post their retirement, they will be able to service their loans. And that is what we are talking about here. Zero processing fees and loans up to 75 years of age, well post their retirement. Why? Because most of these people, employees, central government and defense employees, keep earning their pension also. So the moment they stop drawing their salaries, you also have the pension component that is coming your way. So here under step down EMIs, what happens is, during the early part of their loan while they are employed, a higher amount gets taken as a part of EMI, and over the later years, you will find there is the EMIs keep getting significantly reduced. So this again is something, an offering tailor-made for this specific of the segment of people. And here we can accommodate loans up to 75 years of age. So as the role, as the, as you go further in the tenure of the loan, you will find that the values keep getting dropping. The values keep coming down, which becomes easier for the customer as well, because while he's in service, he is servicing a higher part of the loan, and as he goes down and nears retirement, post retirement, the liabilities are substantially lower. We have a super saver variant, which is basically an overdraft kind of facility which can be offered for home loans. And here a lot of your business customers, especially the affluent team, services to a lot of professionals, self-employed professionals, businessmen, and these have cyclical earnings, and sometimes there's a large influx of funds and funds and all. So an overdraft facility, if someone who's looking for an overdraft kind of facility, that is something that we can offer. And here again, 10 lakhs to 5 crores is the loan amount, 20 years plus 2 years moratorium for partially disbursed loans. And here what happens is, at any point in time, if the customer has any surplus to deposit in the overdraft account that he has, he will be able to deposit in the super saver variant. You need to have a overdraft facility kind of account for this variant, and as and when the customer has surplus, he can go about doing it. You also have a 2 years moratorium for partially disbursed loans, and this happens specifically when there are fluctuations, when the customer is not able to meet those commitments. The moratorium helps, like we saw even during the pandemic. A lot of times customers requested for an extension or a moratorium. So if that is the case, that also is inbuilt into the product like a super saver. We have a normal variant, which is the normal vanilla home loan, which is again from 3 lakhs to 5 crores. And if you want a plain straightforward vanilla home loan, that is what is offered here under the vanilla home loan variant. We also have another variant, which is the Saksham, and this is primarily for self-employed customers. But the loan amount here is not 5 crores, it's up to 3 crores only. And the tenure also, unlike 30 years, it is up to 15 years. So here, this particular variant is only for the purchase of resale house or flats. So at any point in time, if you have a self-employed customer who wants to purchase a resale flat or house, then we can offer a Saksham variant if the values are this range and the tenure is 15 years. So this again is something that is specifically curated for this variant or this segment of customers, which is the Saksham home loan. Over and above these variants, there are multiple more variants as well. What we are covering is, like I said, just a glimpse of the home loan segment, where we have certain dedicated variants for certain select groups, and we have the regular versions as well, and plus many more that can be discussed with the customer. what we need to understand is the balance transfer. So irrespective of whether the customer takes a home loan from you or not, please check whether there's an opportunity for balance transfer from your customers. And if that is the case, a balance transfer can be looked into. And that also has been working extremely successfully for our RMs, because for the balance transfers also, they are able to manage with a great degree of success, moving those relationships and loans from competition banks to our banks. We also have a top-up facility. So any kind of customer who's having an existing home loan and has utilized a part of it, we can always do a top-up for the amount that he has serviced. And balance transfer always comes with a set of advantages, because this is a loan that is already running with a competition bank, or for that matter, even with our banks, the customer may have a loan, and in case if he wants a top-up facility, we can offer for our existing customers as well. Now, for the customer who is going in for a balance transfer, we would be looking at the past servicing of the loans, and it becomes easier because the customer has already been screened and vetted by a competition institution or organization, and we also have track records to see. So unlike a first-time customer, basis, maybe I don't have any credit history or payment history to refer to, in a balance transfer, it becomes that much more easier for the customer and for the bank. We, however, are very careful, because it's an asset product and we are taking over a loan. We are also very, very careful where we take it from. So there are a list of top 15 financiers which Axis Bank refers to. And these, when you say who would these be, these would be established organizations, institutions. The list is available with your retail asset partner, but all your major competition banks like ICICI, HDFC, Kotak are a part of it. Similarly, institutions like HUDCO, Housing Finance, all these major top institutions are also a part of this list. So before you commit to balance transfer, one of the things that you would want to also keep in mind is we don't do it for all. We do it for a select set of institutions, and these institutions, like I said, keeps getting changed, added, new names keep getting included. So please have that check whether, so commitments, at least on this side, we would want the RM to be careful and depend on your channel partner to make those kind of confirmations to your customers. That was the little bit on home loan. Questions?
Vidya, I have two questions. Number one is, what are the benefits for a priority customer? Do they get discounted rates, waiver and processing fees? What are the
Preferential
benefits?
pricing, discount on rates, discount in waiver and fees, and all that is available. Like I said, subject to approval. So as of now, we don't have a slide which says that this is the blanket discount. But because they are priority customers from the affluent team, they would by default get a pricing preferential.
So
how is it differs from variant to variant? Because the pricing changes.
Okay. And any interest rate idea? What is the interest rates offered by Axis Bank?
Changes from time to time. Maybe you can check the web to figure out what is the current home loan rates that are getting offered. Because like I said, it also depends upon which is the variant that the customer would want to go in for.
Okay. And this will be coming under OCS, right?
It will be coming under OCS,
And
yes.
OCS is open architecture?
Yes, of course, open architecture.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay. So,
also it depends upon the CIBIL score of the customer.
yeah. Okay. So today, so it all will depend upon who generates the lead. LG will be very important in that case, right?
LG has to be, LG is not only important, it also needs to, many a times what happens is there's a lot of deals that fall through in between. It could be due to lack of papers, it could be lack of scores, so, or maybe, the customer doesn't get what he is looking for. We have not been able to get those approvals for maybe the rate that the customer is wanting. So there's a lot of reasons why, you might have initiated maybe 10 calls, doesn't mean that it would lead to disbursements, because like I said, it's an entirely different team who's looking into the paperwork, the quality of the client, the quality of the loan that we are taking over, so on and so forth. So a lot of consideration. So even your retail asset partner will not be able to confirm because he himself is just a license. The entire processing, screening, checking, the queries that come up are all coming in from the credit team.
Yeah. And how many points they will get will be available on the enterprise-wide circular.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
What you can do is at any point in time, you can have a follow-up with the retail asset partner to see at what stage is the documentation on, what is it that maybe the client needs to furnish, so on and so forth. So it's not just a question of putting the lead and forgetting about it. If you follow it up, because there would be many times when your intervention would be required. It could be to put up the case for an approval, for a deviation, for an exception, considering the client, and you know the client best. Right? So those would be the things that you will have to step in. Similarly, if you want to fast track, you would be the person who would want to put up those mails to ensure that the customer's loan gets dispersed on a fast track basis. You would want to check, because the questions all from the client side would be coming to you. So whether you should be in a position to respond appropriately or find out, what it is, so that you can give a educated response to the customer as well.
Is there any way on the system that I can check what is the status of the application?
So your SaaS application will be able to tell you. You also have the retail partner who will be able to tell what in his systems, because that asset team has a different software. The asset team follows a different process. So those applications will not be available to you, but you will be able to see what stage is the lead in, whether it is with the processing team, whether it has got approved. So that stages of lead, you will be able to track even in CRM. You'll be able to see the status of the thing, but in depth, kahan pe kya chahiye, kahan pe ruka hua hai, maybe you need to call up someone to find out details. Those things the RM only will have to do. So he will have to work in close coordination with the asset team.
Right, thank you.
Anju, Shilpa?
No.
All right. So let me move to the loan against property. So this again, over in recent years, has been very, very popular. A lot of our customers already owning different kinds of multiple properties, be it in residential or for that matter, commercial space. And in case if they have a requirement of financial crunch or funding, or if they want to utilize the benefit of an idle property, they can definitely raise some capital against their properties. And that is what the loan against property segment comes in. Like I said, the affluent customers requesting for loan against property, already owners of multiple properties, which they can put to better use if they use a loan lap variant for them. And here again, the end user funds not being monitored. What we are checking is the ownership of the property, and depending upon whether it's residential, whether it's commercial, how much of it can be lent is dispersed to the client, and the customer just needs to service on paying back the money that the bank has lent. How he uses it can be is the choice of the customer. Like I said, as seen from the slide, it can be for business expansion, it can be for business needs, it can be for personal needs, so on and so forth. So the customer can pick and choose how he would want to do that. Obviously, it is assumed that the client will not use it for any kind of speculative purposes or any kind of illegal needs, but otherwise, loan against property, again, a very, very good offering, which will give, again, the RM cross-sell points. The target segment, again, diverse, and we are offering and catering to one and all, be it the individuals, non-individuals, or for that matter, salaried businessmen, professionals, and so on, including the NRI customers. Certain things, key things when it comes to loan against property that an RM should check is the values. And here again, it depends upon which city you are in, what is the amount of loan that is available for disbursement. These things, like I said, are subject to change. And if there are any revisions, your channel partner or your retail asset partner would be the right person to handle those. So carry or take him along for your calls with the customer. and they will be the people who will have the updated and the latest information. So currently the range starts from 5 lakh to 5 crores, and depending upon what kind of city you are, tier 1, tier 2 or metros, the values change depending upon the location. Income norms, age norms, again different. So here for salaried person living in tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, and here again, if there are questions on what are the cities that are coming in, which are the cities, and what would be the values, the retail asset team would be the people who will be able to correctly identify the location and the values that are applicable or available for your customers. In terms of earnings, the individual is expected to have 1.8 lakhs per annum partnership, 2 lakhs per annum private limited companies, 5 lakhs per annum. And these are documentary evidence that we would want to see in terms of the balances. Like I said, a lot of these products are also available on the online mode. So in case if the customer has any kind of pre-approved offers, can be looked into for speaking to the customers as well. Age norms 24 to 60 years for self-employed professionals and non-professionals is 21 to 65 years. Employment continuity, here again, we are looking at employment continuity, be it in home loans, be it in LAP, because it's an asset product, we are lending. We would want to make sure that the customer is in a position to pay back whatever money he receives as loan. And that's why a little bit of stability and an idea about the income is what we are looking at. So minimum 1 year salary with at least 50,000 per month, or if it is less than 1 year experience, we are looking at an overall experience of 3 years or 2 years respectively, depending upon the segment, depending upon the kind of work that the customer is doing. Again, different clauses that will come into play, and the customer will have to go by the final. So the final call is always by the credit managers, be it for home loan and LAP, and that is what would be they will be having the final say in the disbursements of both home loan and LAP. For self-employed, we are looking for business continuity proof as well. So filing of returns and so on. The loan against property, LTV values also 65% of market value for residential, commercial, 60% of market value, 5% lower for vacant property, so on and so forth. So today it can be 95% of cost of property or 60% of market value. LTV definitions and what is the variances would be there, all can be handled by your asset partner. Let's look at the variants. And here again, some variants. We are just to give the perspective of home loan and LAP, because these would be leads that they will have to create from their affluent customers. So from that perspective, we are giving you an overview. It is not an in-depth training in these products is what we have to keep in mind, because they are not the people who will be taking it forward. All they need to do is generate the lead and pass it on to the asset team. So here residential or commercial, 5 lakhs to 5 crores, as we saw in the earlier slides, is what we are offering against LAP. And it can be a very easy way to, generate finance for the customer who is having these kind of properties. We also have commercial property. And in case if the customer wants to purchase a commercial property, that for that reason also we can offer a LAP variant for the customer. And here again, the values will be same 5 lakhs to 5 crores across the segments, and the customer can opt for a purchase also. So any kind of purchase of commercial property, if that is the plan, I can offer a LAP for that as well. We have a product like lease rental discounting, and this is basically long time lease which the customer might have entered into on his commercial property with an established beneficiary or partner. If that is the case, then we can give upfront value to the customer. So today, if I have a property, a commercial property which has been leased out to a company or a firm, Axis Bank can take over that from the customer and give you an upfront credit. So as a customer, I am benefited because the rental income which was supposed to come to me in a span of, let's say, 5 years, I get an immediate upfront credit for the same. Of course, it's a discounted credit, but it is I don't have to wait the entire tenure of the rental agreement that I would have. the tenure of would be basis how much has been completed for the lease agreement that has happened. So the maximum that we do is 9 years, or whatever is the balance of the lease agreement that is remaining on your agreement. So here again, it is subject to certain considerations in terms of what is the property, who is the person to whom you have leased it out to. But this is something that can be offered to our customers. So today, rather than waiting out for the entire tenure, I have something where I can get an upfront credit for the same. It is suitable for customers who are having properties on lease and long-term lease, so to say. And if you want, you can make sure that you can go in for a product like lease rental discounting. For a LAP variant, we also have a product like an overdraft facility, like we saw in in the home loan section. So any customer who has a property and he would want to create any kind of overdraft requirement against the same, we can also create an overdraft for the LAP variant, and the amount that gets dispersed as the LAP amount can be set up in the form of an OD account for the customer. And this again can be in different forms. So the OD facility also can be worked up and customized as per the needs of the customer. It can be a drop line OD, it can be a straight line OD, depending upon, for the amount that the customer deposits, you can figure out what is the type of overdraft facility that the customer is looking for. Specifically, again, for business customers, because our affluent customers fall into this space. So any customer looking to set up an overdraft facility can be offered. So when you say a drop line OD, it is where your drawing limits keep getting reduced over a span of a year. And whenever you go in for an overdraft kind of facility, it is subject to checks and review every year. So you keep checking how the disbursement has happened, how the loan has been serviced, and it keeps getting renewed. So here the loan amount 5 lakhs to 5 crores and the maximum is 10 years, and it is subject to renewal every year, which means every year you are reviewing how the facility has been working for the customer, and if there are any changes that need to be done in terms of the structure, those appropriately will be shared by the back-end team. Straight line OD is when you have a fixed amount that is being paid over the entire tenure of the loan. So that is the straight line facility, and you have the drop line facility, again can be customized as per the choice of the customer. Works well for our business customers, and here again you don't have to submit any stock or book debt statements, unlike you would see in the business loans the customer has to also submit. That is not there for the LAP overdraft facility. We have a variant specifically for the NRI customer as well. And here, if the NRI customer has property which he wants to, take a LAP on, we can offer that for our NRI customers as well, both for residential and commercial. The details remain the same. The only change is the tenure. And here we are offering a tenure of 15 years for NRI customers. A few more in terms of the variants of LAP. One is the balance transfer. So how we do it for home loans. Similarly, we can offer a balance transfer even on LAP. So if the customer has taken a LAP from a competition bank, we can definitely take that over, subject to, like I said, on what has been the track record of the customer, which is the institution that he has taken it from, so on and so forth. But a balance transfer definitely a good probability for the RMs to move portfolios from competition banks to Axis. We also have banking surrogate, and here what we are talking about is many a times there could be issues with the documentation of the customer, or maybe the salary range, the income range. And due to these reasons, if there is a possibility that the customer is not able to fit in any of our ready respective molds, I can also look at surrogate programs for the customer. Surrogate is basically looking at other than income proof, what can decide, whether the customer is eligible for a LAP variant or so on. So here we are looking at the banking conduct to decide on the eligibility. So we look at the customer's bank statements, we see what has been the transactions, what are the balances that we see in the customer account, how healthy or hygienic is the transactions that we see in the customer account, and basis that we can take a call whether the customer qualifies for a LAP proposition or not. So that is something that is a surrogate program. So we have, for those who don't fit into the regular scheme of things due to whatever reasons, we can also explore the surrogate options. And here again, 5 lakhs to 5 crores, 15 years, tenure can be looked at. For professionals, we can look at a gross turnover. Sorry, for businessmen, we can look at a gross turnover variant wherein the turnover of the business decides what is the quantum of loan that we can offer them.
Vidya,
So,
what is banking surrogate? I don't know that.
banking surrogate is basis your banking behavior. So today, let's say I am a salaried person, but unfortunately, the norms for the salaried class, I am not able to fulfill. Maybe I don't have the salary slips as required, or maybe I have not been a salaried account holder for so long. Due to which maybe, if there is any issue with my documentation, I'm not fitting into the particular variant. So surrogate is an alternative. So for me to avail of a LAP, how does the bank facilitate? The bank will look at my banking statements, and that is the banking behavior. So today, if I'm a businessman who's facing some problems in giving the required set of documentation, or if I'm a salaried person who's not able to furnish the documentation as prescribed by the bank, or maybe there's some challenges or issues with my documentation, due to which a LAP cannot be disbursed in the regular scheme of things, I have an alternative, which is the banking surrogate. So here what they are checking is they are checking my bank statements, they are checking my transactions over the last year or two, and wanting to get an idea of what is the money that comes into my account, what are my spends, how many, let's say if I'm a businessman, what is the conduct in my business accounts, how many checks are getting cleared, how many checks are getting returned, what is the average balances that I maintain. So today, if I'm having a healthy bank statement, if my transactions are in line and seems okay, then that is one possibility where a LAP can be offered basis a banking surrogate, which is your banking behavior.
So credit rating भी यही हुआ ना, वो हमारी जो सिबिल रेटिंग होती है उसके बेसिस पे भी, मतलब वो नहीं चलेगा
हाँ,
यहाँ पर?
but हाँ, वो तो रहेगा ही ना. बट कभी कभी क्या होता है, अगर तुम्हारी डॉक्यूमेंट्स आपके पास कम पड़ रहे हैं या आपके पास उतना प्रूफ नहीं है, तो ऑल्टरनेटिव क्या है? विल आई नॉट गेट अ लोन? वी विल गिव यू अ लोन इफ यू आर एबल टू कंडक्ट, इफ your transactions are clear and clean.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Right? For example, जैसे businessmen में, in my books are not able to show a fantastic amount as let's say जैसे turnover है, मेरा turnover कम दिखा रहा है, तो मेरा उस हिसाब से eligibility भी कम हो जाता है, amount भी कम हो जाता है, right? तो but alternatively, if you see my bank statements are quite healthy. So on basis of that, if I were to look at review my bank statements, maybe I'll qualify for a higher limit or a better value. So those are what we are saying, where in the regular scheme of things, if a customer can't be fit, what is the alternative?
Right, got it. Thank you.
So here again, basis the turnover of your firm, you can decide what is the value that you will be eligible for. So basis the amount that is reflecting in your returns, in your financial documents, the loan amount eligibility will be decided upon. Here again, depending upon the type of business, there are certain considerations. What is the margin they'll keep for manufacturing business or service industry, so on and so forth. तो अलग अलग बिजनेस के लिए कैलकुलेशंस अलग अलग है, what would be the amount that they will consider, so on and so forth. But my business turnover can also decide what would be the quantum of loan that would get disbursed to me. Similarly, how I have for business, for professionals, we also have cross-professional receipts, wherein for a doctor, for a lawyer, for an architect, what is my professional income that I file, and basis that declared income जो रहती है उसके ऊपर I can also qualify for a LAP. So this is again one such alternative for all the professionals, and that again is something that we are talking about. Here again, different professions में कितना multiplier होगा, what would be the quantum that would be there. All those discussions can be handled with your by the asset partner, but there is an alternative here for professionals as well. You have the EMI equalizer, and this again is a fairly new variant and popular variant that can be offered to our customers, because all our affluent customers are taking different types of loans from different institutions. So you might have a personal loan running, you might have a home loan running, you have a business loan running, and in terms of tracking these various loans, servicing these loans can become cumbersome for an individual. So I have something like an EMI equalizer wherein multiple loans can all be consolidated into one single loan. So Axis Bank basically is taking over all your various liabilities and then setting up one single EMI which you have to service. So in the past, you would have serviced 5 different EMIs during the month from 5 different institutions. Maybe here at the end, after going in for an EMI equalizer, all you need to do is service one EMI for towards Axis Bank, because Axis Bank would have taken over. But here again, a lot of things that would come into play is the institutions that you have borrowed from, what rates have you borrowed from, what is the outstanding that is available on each of those loans. Because while we are consolidating, at the end of the day, Axis Bank has to set up one single EMI which you'll be servicing. So basis that, we can look at consolidation also of your liabilities. So that is the EMI equalizer. Yes. Any questions on lab?
No, thank you.
No.
No questions, Vidya. Vidya, may I log out? I have a session. at
Sure,
12.
sure. I'm
I
anyways
think it is
wrapping
done
it up.
for the day.
It's done. It's done for the day. So I'll stop and we can